Well, it's a great pleasure to speak actually on telemedicine. Um, Let me introduce myself. My name is Peter van der Kerkhof. I'm Chief Medical Officer of the International Psoriasis Council. We all have experienced during the years of the pandemic of COVID-19 the problem to see patients actually face to face. And during that phase, also those dermatologists who didn't like to work with teledermatology had to work with teledermatology and had to get experience with it. Simple reason was that the doctors and the patients wanted to shield themselves in order to counteract the spreading of COVID-19, and at the same time, patients and doctors want, of course, to continue their treatment relation. During COVID-19, many dermatologists learned to use actually the principle of telemedicine. And at that time, as IPC, we felt that it is important that a group of experts in the field of psoriasis and the field of telemedicine and new principles of care formed together a working group. And that in this working group, consensus statements were defined. And when we did not reach consensus, that we provided some discussion around why that we did not reach consensus. The working group worked together at several occasions where statements were formulated, and we developed the statements to the extent that firstly it was totally clear what the content of the statement was, and furthermore that we then did some voting. We voted whether or not we could agree with the statement. We then discovered that we had 36 statements which really required highlighting in the international literature. And we did that in a publication in the GEADV Clinical Practice Journal. And the paper is the title of the paper, Telemedicine and Psoriasis, a review based on statements of the Telemedicine Working Group of the International Psoriasis Council. We first started by giving definitions to what telemedicine is. And we defined telemedicine actually as a very broad way of interacting between physician or between a doctor and physician with internet communication tools. There are two major areas here in telemedicine. One is the so-called store and forward approach, where the pictures, digital pictures, are loaded into the computer system of the person who have to do the consultation. And that is very nice, for it can be asynchronous. That is, the doctor can look at the pictures during evening, during the night, or when he wants. And there are also some disadvantages, of course, for you only see the picture and you have not the rest of the communication. And for that, we have a live video conferencing as a way of practicing telemedicine. So there are two major directions in telemedicine. That is firstly the store and forward, and then live video conferencing. What is important is the quality of the photographs. We realized this, that it is very important that patients and referring doctors are instructed very well how to make correct photographs. And then when we move to a live video conferencing, it's important to have high definition connection. For with high definition connection, you can do a better description of the skin abnormalities. And of course, you can also form hybrid modules in telemedicine. A big advantage is that the approach is rather cost effective. It is much less expensive for a patient to come to see the doctor than having the internet communication. Another advantage is that we can reach maybe patients easily and better, and that there's not the hurdle that patients should come to you. And this may provide opportunities and early intervention and early diagnosis of psoriasis. And we may use indeed the method of telemedicine as a method for easy access to care. I've of course mentioned the problems during COVID-19. There was a uniform advantage here of the use of the internet communication. But when we look to the various areas of the world, then we can see that in a busy environment like Europe and like United States of America, it can be quite cost effective to have internet consultation. But the advantage in remote areas where sometimes people have to travel a full day to see a dermatologist, it is so advantageous to use the opportunities of telemedicine. In that respect, it is of importance to develop further the possibilities that telemedicine has, and to exploit these possibilities. For example, with people who cannot write, who cannot read, a lot of people have mobile phones, and also by voice messages, by sending over pictures, that really is something that indeed also in these areas can be done. Are there limitations? Yes, there are limitations we discovered. For example, whole body skin examination is difficult when you want to exclude skin cancer, and it can be quite difficult to make pictures of the whole body surface, and that the pictures are of enough quality. So when you want to exclude non-melanoma skin cancer or melanoma skin cancer in patients with psoriasis, it can be very important to see the patient actually in a face-to-face consultation. Then online inspection of sensitive body parts can be very uneasy. For example, inspection of the genitalia is uneasy and is better done often in more in a setting where privacy and security is really guaranteed. There are some barriers for the implementation of telemedicine, and one is the worry about security and about privacy. But on the other hand, we have to realize that also in the times that all the notes that the doctor made in the patient record, that is stored at a certain place, but when somebody who should not have entered to the records get entered to the records, can also read a lot of very privacy sensitive materials, and barriers are there to overcome. But we have to realize this. There can be social, demographic, or cultural rejection, depending also on the cultures, that it is difficult really to send pictures by mobile devices via the internet. When we look internationally, we also did a questionnaire on reimbursement, then it's highly variable. That is, even within the same country, it can be quite different how reimbursement in different regions of a country is arranged. But overall, we can say that reimbursement is not well organized in general. And that implies that a lot of doctors are doing telemedicine just as not as just in their free time, and it is additional. And we have to take care of that in a professional healthcare environment, adequate reimbursement is important, but also that privacy aspects are very important. There should be an organizatory frame for telemedicine, and that really is something for the future, what is absolutely needed. Telemedicine provides actually opportunities worldwide, but the exploitation, the further development of this opportunity are highly region dependent. It is totally different whether you are living in a remote area or whether you are living in a densely populated area with people who all are very busy. Are there special situations where in-person visits are preferred? Yes, there are. That is, in our statements came out, that is firstly, of course, when a biopsy is required. You cannot do a biopsy via the internet. You can, of course, say, well, a doctor living in that region should take the biopsy, but with taking a biopsy, the exact position of the biopsy is important. Difficult areas such as genitalia, flexors, and scalp requires actually, in general, a face-to-face consultation and not via the internet. Patients with very severe psoriasis, where psoriasis covers all over the body, it's very difficult to get a sense of that via the internet. Patients who refuse to the prescribed medication. That is, when you want to do this form of motivation, of compliance, better is to have that in a face-to-face consultation. Children with psoriasis, the experiences are very mixed. That is, with children and psoriasis, it is when you give some instruction via the internet, you can do that, and some treatment instruction, but motivation in general or appreciation of the quality of life is very difficult via the internet. Cancer checkup, very difficult to do that via the internet. Skin cancer, particularly when you want to rule out cancers over the whole body surface. Arthritis, enthesitis, dactylitis, you may need functional tests, which are very difficult to do via the internet. Then, what we also did is which therapies can be initiated by teledermatology. And all of it, we concluded that a topical therapy can be initiated and also maintenance therapy can be given via the internet. But the classical systemic therapy, the majority of us felt that face-to-face consultation in the majority of visits is needed. That is to start a therapy. And also starting a biologic, the majority felt that you cannot start a biologic exclusively by internet communication, that you need to see face-to-face the patient. Which therapies can be continued by teledermatology? That's different. That is the maintenance. Topicals, 100% agreed, can be given. Then about half of us felt that the classical systemics, you can do the follow-up visits via the internet to a large extent. And all of us, we agreed that it depends from person to person, but that we cannot say that this is 100%. 100% of the patients, the group said, can be followed via internet communication when they are on apremilast, when they are on the anti-IL-23 antagonists, anti-IL-17 antagonists, and 85% of us felt that this also can be done, so the maintenance, by TNF-alpha antagonists. So all of this, including some call for actions, you can find in that publication. But now to the future. I think we can safely say that telemedicine is an inherent part of our professional handling and our professional doctor-patient interaction in dermatology in general, but in psoriasis also in particular. But it is the matter of the estimation of the right patients at the right moment. That is, there are episodes that you do just a follow-up of patients, and that patient is in an outstanding and excellent condition, and that it could also be that the patient him herself has great difficulty in traveling. All these points are arguments to say that during some time you can do telemedicine consultation via the internet easily. And when you feel that it is important to see the patient more face to face, then you do that. It is a question of personalized medicine. Now, of course, we can have criteria for everything, but life in general, but in particular professional life, becomes really sometimes difficult when we want to have criteria for everything. For in the real treatment and the real management of the patients, we have to have the personal touch. And the personal touch implies that you combine the way of the classic face-to-face consultation with modern technologies which are available, and that you discuss this with your patients. So for the future, it is a question of tailored medicine, how to have the best approach here to individual patients. Of course, also, when we make use of artificial intelligence in the future, we may have unique opportunities for early diagnosis, especially in the remote area. Early diagnosis is often a big problem, that many patients have psoriasis for many years that are misdiagnosed, and then at the end, people say you have psoriasis. And the problem is that when psoriasis is there for many years without any treatment, it becomes more and more difficult to treat psoriasis in an adequate way. So telemedicine, I think, when we organize actually our care in conjunction with primary care physician in a way that we create low access clinics, easy access clinics, we may be able that we shorten the duration that patients are without any treatment. So all in all, the hybrid will really be, I think, the solution for the future in many situations will improve actually care. Face-to-face and telemedicine go hand in hand. Thank you.